last night in Assembly Hall, there were chants of fire Woodson. Indiana drops to 4-3 in the Big Ten. They lose 94-69 to Illinois. 94-69. I mean, all of us have seen the different things from this game. John, you played at such a high level, and I can't help but watch some of these kids playing for Indiana that did get bags. And we know who they are. Oumar Ballo being at the forefront of this. You were texting with us earlier today about this whole situation. What's your perspective on what's happening in Bloomington right now?
I'm on the player side, and people are so harsh on these guys, but this is just the era that we are in. When the NBA is about to pay you $100 million or 10, whatever they're drafting you, they ask about your work ethic. They call your middle school coach. They call your elementary coach. They call your uncle's cousin. They call your coach from when you were in 7th grade. And they find out what type of person you are, right? Is he going to work hard? Is he good to other people? So if a school gives this kids money and they don't do the proper background to understand that if they get this money that they're going to still work hard and have motivation, then that's on the school. And I, for one, will say part of my motivation was getting to the next level. So, for instance, when we were in North Carolina, before we would ever go to a bar or a club, we would go work out in the gym, and we bring our clothes to the gym, and then we get dressed and shower at the gym, and we'd leave from the gym. So I'm not gonna lie to you, fellas. If I had $1 million coming in, I'm not going to the gym at 10 o'clock. I promise. I'm just not. I'm just not at an 18 or 19-year-old kid. I'm just being honest. I'm just being honest. We're like these. We want to treat them like professionals, but some kids have different motivations. And if I said in the chat today, I said, hey, look. If I'm looking at the draft boards and I'm not really on any draft boards and maybe a second round two-way guy, maybe go overseas, I might take my foot off the gas when I'm getting 7 figures. I mean, that is just human nature. So Indiana's dealing with that. You've got to do more background. You've got to check. You've got to call around just like NBA teams do. This is a professional deal. You're giving these kids all this money. So do your research and live with the results. And Indiana, unfortunately, looks like they've got a group of guys maybe resting on their laurels and enjoying the bag, as we call it. And it's rearing its ugly head. And Mike Woodson's going to have to maybe change his strategy on how he looks at guys and recruits and background checks on who will work their ass off when they get paid and who won't. It's a simple question that you can find out if you call a few people, I promise.
Coach, where do you stand with this? And there are a lot of people right now that are saying here, all right, like this is not the Indiana standard. And you got fans chanting what they chant. What would you do if you were in this staff's shoes? How would you handle all this? I think you're muted again, Coach. Hear us again. Let's see. Might have an audio issue with Coach that we get back. We'll get you back, Matt. You can check back out, check back in. Here's my take on this.
Mm-hmm.
What happened last night was embarrassing on so many levels. That is so far from the Indiana culture, their tradition, their history. And I'm in total agreement with you. You can't just drop a bag and let that be it. Ask Jerome Tang how that's going. Ask John Calipari how that's going to a degree. I remember hearing when he took the Arkansas job that he's going to have even more NIL. He was at Kentucky. Like, come on. Who are we kidding here? Like, it was going to be that substantially more. But to me, if you're Mike Woodson and you're an Indiana guy and you've got this legacy, Mike knows what the standard is at Indiana. That has to be so embarrassing for him to have to watch that and for him to have to look in the mirror now. And the question is, I think a lot of these guys, whether it was a Chris Mullen, Patrick Ewing, I think, dealt with this, and now a Mike Woodson's dealing with it. They don't want to look in the mirror because they know what the picture is. And the picture right now is bleak. And they're trying to tell themselves, I can get it back to what it was. And when you tasted that, that obviously drives you. I sat in on an Indiana practice. Mike Woodson ran the whole thing. I'm telling you guys, ran the whole thing. But it was apparent within the practice that just because he was trying to do things and run the whole thing, you still got to be in touch with the kids. Money doesn't buy that.
Yep.
And it is very clear watching Indiana play that the coach and the players are not connected.
Yeah, I would say this too, Fanta. Like, look, the issue last night was lack of inspiration. The last two games, they have not played the game inspired. They've gotten blown out. The last two games, they've gotten blown out. You take these two games out, you're like, oh, man, maybe Indiana's in the top tier in the Big Ten. Maybe they are. Now you put these two games out there, there's a complete lack of inspiration. For the fan base, though, to boo him the way they did last night, my question to Hoosier fans was, okay, what's the solution? You ran Archie Miller out of town, who's a good coach. You ran Tom Crean out of town, who went to 3 out of 5 Sweet 16s, if I'm not mistaken. Ran him out of town. He wasn't the solution. You haven't been to a Final Four since 2002. Your last national championship title was in 1987. What is the solution? Like, what's – and I'm not saying Mike Woodson is the solution and he's the right guy for the job, because the last two performances has been a complete lack of inspiration from his team. And like Hinson said, it just looked like they were checked out. It didn't really matter. We're not going to go to the gym. We're not going to go work on our game. But what's the solution? Like, what's the solution? This is a program and a team that has ridiculous expectations.
Oh, yeah.
For what Tom Crean did when he was there and what he walked into in his first year with the program, his first couple of years, and then to get it to the level where they were in the Big Ten, and then they ran him out of town. Right? They ran him out of town. Archie Miller comes in. He's got to deal with the pandemic. Nobody talks about that. Like, nobody talks about what coaches and what players were having to deal with during the pandemic. So they get rid of him. All right, let's bring in one of our own. It's not working. We're going to boo him. We got, whatever it is, 18, 20,000 people in the building. It's not going well. Let's boo him. Let's get rid of him. What's the solution? Like, what's a realistic solution to fix this thing?
It's you've got to work harder. I've never coached, obviously, Coach McCall. I think just working harder on getting certain guys in the building, maybe starting having a culture. Because like I said, it looks like they've let go of the rope and there's nobody to hold each other accountable. Well, I ain't been here. I'm going to be leaving next year. Well, I don't care about Indiana. I spent 3 years here. I spent 4 years here. And so, we used to have a thing where at Carolina, even when I played, man, if we played a certain way, we would get text messages from former guys like, do you know what you're wearing across your chest? Like, don't you ever go out there and perform? Like, do you know the names that you are representing? So that right there, I don't think is happening, and that could have a trickle-down effect and a snowball effect, and it's why you lose by 30 to a team that you should be competing with, not getting steamrolled over. And as far as the NIL, the two highest salary teams in the NBA are the Suns and the Timberwolves, and they're fighting for playing spots, right? So money does not solve everything. Money doesn't solve everything. So you've got to work hard to get the right guys in the building, and everything will take care of itself.
And then you look at the team that we started the night with, and Taman Lipsey, who was the 29th rated guard in the entire class, and Curtis Jones is outside the top 180 in the 24/7 Sports transfer rankings, came from the Mid-American Conference. If you don't get guys who work and who want to put in the work, I don't care how much green you have. The name on your jersey matters, not the numbers on your account and routing.